Everybody, this is Mr. Howard, and we are back with this week's Raw Talk. We're going to be covering Monday Night Raw, Tuesday Night SmackDown. We're also going to be covering NXT and the Cruiserweight Classic, so sit back and enjoy the recap. So I have a Fatal 4-Way going here, and you'll understand why in just a moment. But to start off on Monday Night Raw, we saw Stephanie McMahon and Mick Foley come to the ring, and the entire roster was up on the stage on the entranceway, and they announced that at SummerSlam there would be a title match for the new heavyweight championship on that of Raw, which is going to be called the Universal Championship. Now, we don't know what this belt looks like, and as far as we know, this is basically the equivalent to the WWE Heavyweight Championship that is on SmackDown, held by Dean Ambrose, of course. Stephanie also announced that in that title match at SummerSlam would be Seth Rollins, her number one draft pick, and his opponent would be determined tonight on Raw. And by doing that, they were going to have a series of matches. So they basically started out saying there would be two Fatal 4-Way matches of the night, and then the winners of those two matches would fight in the main event to go on to SummerSlam and face Seth Rollins for the new Universal Championship. So the first Fatal 4-Way was announced, and it featured Kevin Owens, Rusev, Cesaro, and the debut of Finn Balor on Monday Night Raw. And it was a tremendous match. I really don't know what to say. The Finn Balor and Cesaro hit a double suplex in the middle of the ring on Owens and Rusev at the same time. We also saw a couple of uppercuts. We saw Kevin Owens do his what's it called? The like somersault into the corner onto his opponents. And the match came to an end when Finn Balor hit the coup de grace on Rusev for the pin and the win. So Finn Balor did go on to the main event, and I was very happy to see him getting a push. I was still very disappointed that we weren't going to see Cesaro in the main event at SummerSlam. I really hope he gets pushed very soon. That's another reason why a lot of us thought he would, and we're hoping that he had gotten drafted to SmackDown. Even he himself had said that. So hopefully on Raw he'll be able to climb up to that brass ring and win a championship soon. So that was a great match. The debut of Nia Jax came up next. We saw her face off against, I believe, Tessa Blanchard, who is the daughter of Tully Blanchard. She's currently a wrestler down on NXT. And Nia Jax, of course, kind of dominated the match. They wanted to make her look strong. Goal achieved. I'm very excited for Nia Jax. She is really cool to watch in the ring. She definitely adds something different than a lot of the technical. I mean, I know most of the time you want technical wrestlers, but I was always one of those people that really enjoyed seeing the Big Show and the Great Khali and those guys in the ring against real high flying or technical wrestlers as well, because it just gives you something different to watch. So that was a pretty good debut. We also had the second Fatal 4-Way match, which featured Chris Jericho, Sheamus, Sami Zayn, and Roman Reigns. I have to say, we saw Superman punches just about everywhere. I mean, he hit everyone with one of those. And Sami Zayn had a pretty strong showing throughout as well. In the end, though, we saw Roman Reigns hit a spear on Chris Jericho to get the pin and the win, which would put him in the main event of the night against none other than Finn Balor. So we will talk about that in just a moment. But first, we had a women's title match between Charlotte and Sasha Banks. Now, this was I mean, I guess a little bit surprising, as we had seen them fight the night before. Although it was a tag match, so I guess it shouldn't really have been surprising that they would give Sasha a title match. But it was good. Sasha, in the middle of the match, pulled an Eddie Guerrero. She basically threw the women's title at Dana Brooke while she was on the outside, and then fell over, so it looked like Dana Brooke had hit her with it. Dana, of course, got ejected from the match, and you could just kind of see, Sasha's smile, akin to what we used to see of Eddie Guerrero. If you haven't seen any of those dirty tactics that Eddie has used, a great example would be, I believe, his last match in the WWE, which was against Mr. Kennedy. And in the match, he picked up a steel chair. He hit the ring with the steel chair, and then threw the chair at Mr. Kennedy and fell down in the process. And when the ref turned around, it really made it look like Kennedy had hit him with the chair, giving Eddie the win. And I think that was for like a number one contenders match or something. So, Eddie was great, and I'm glad we got to see a little bit of him in that match last night. Moving on to the main event, we saw Roman Reigns versus Finn Balor, which was a dream match come true. Definitely not a match you would have suspected we would see a year ago. I have to say I was pleasantly surprised that Finn Balor put up such a great fight, because we've seen Roman Reigns in the main event for so long. It kind of, it's hard to see a lot of guys being able to, actively put up a fight against him, with the only ones being able to do that really being Lesnar, maybe the Shield members, and maybe Cena or something. But Finn Balor put on a really strong showing, and he ended up pulling out a victory over Roman Reigns, which I thought was tremendous. I'm sure all the people that hate Roman Reigns were especially happy. But even me, being someone who fairly enjoys watching Reigns, I was very excited, because Finn Balor is not only a tremendous wrestler, but he's really fun to watch, and he definitely deserves a title shot. And now we're going to get to see him face Seth Rollins at SummerSlam, which honestly could be one of the best matches of the night. So I'm looking forward to that. We will do a quick segue here, and we will pick up where we left off and start recapping SmackDown. So I'll be right back. All right, and we are back with the SmackDown recap. Basically, the night started off very similar to that of Raw. We had Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan come out to the ring, and the entire roster circled the apron of the ring as well. Basically, they announced that Dean Ambrose needed an opponent at SummerSlam to face him for the WWE Championship, and they decided to have a six-pack challenge match as the main event of the night to determine the number one contender. They announced Bray Wyatt, John Cena, Baron Corbin, AJ Styles, and Dolph Ziggler as the first five competitors of that match. The sixth person, they said, would be determined during the night in a battle royal, which would feature pretty much everybody else on the roster, and the winner of that battle royal would be put into the six-pack challenge match. So basically, we saw the battle royal, lots of tag teams, lots of lower-tier wrestlers. We saw the final four come down to that of Kane, Zack Ryder, Apollo Crews, and Kalisto. Kane eliminated Kalisto and then eliminated Zack Ryder pretty easily, I would say, after they had all tried to team up on him. He then went to run for a clothesline to Apollo Crews, and Apollo Crews ducked. Kane ran over the top rope, landed on the outside, and Apollo Crews wins the Battle Royal. So Apollo Crews then got put into the main event, and it became the six-pack challenge that we heard announced. We also saw Becky Lynch versus Natalya in a rematch from the night before. This match ended differently, however, with Natalya tapping out to the armbar, which I think is how the match the night before should have ended, but it is what it is. We also saw Heath Slater show up and basically yell at everyone for not signing him during the draft, and Shane McMahon came out and explained to him, if you want a job, you could hand in your resume and apply that way, and he wasn't having it. So as he's rambling and we're kind of running his mouth, you notice someone kind of come out from under the ring, or maybe from the crowd, I'm not sure, and come up behind him. Heath Slater turns around and gets gored by Rhino himself. So Rhino officially debuts on SmackDown. I don't know if he's going to be a full-timer now, or if he's just going to be a part-timer, but the crowd was definitely into it, and I am very excited to see that that in the future. I mean, Rhino against anyone will be interesting, whether it's a young guy or a jobber or a main event player. That's definitely something I'm going to be looking forward to. Moving into the main event of the night with the six-pack challenge. Again, the match consisted of Bray Wyatt, John Cena, AJ Styles, Baron Corbin, Dolph Ziggler, and Apollo Crews. The match was really good. Everyone had their moment to shine. I would say the most prominent part of the match was John Cena just FUing everyone in sight. He'd hit one guy with it, they'd roll out. He'd hit another guy with it, they'd roll out. And eventually, Styles countered and kind of hit John Cena out of the ring. He turns around to get a nice super kick to the face by Dolph Ziggler, and the ref counts 1, 2, 3. So surprisingly, Dolph Ziggler is the new number one contender for the WWE Championship. I think a lot of people, I have to say the reaction was probably split down the middle from what I've heard. Most people are either really excited or really underwhelmed. Personally, I think it's more of a filler choice for SummerSlam. I think they're biding their time for Randy Orton to be available, for Cena and AJ and Wyatt to be available. I honestly thought Bray Wyatt was going to be the winner. He would have been my number one choice because Randy Orton has a match with Lesnar, and presumably Cena will be facing AJ Styles again. But we will get to see where that goes in a couple weeks, so that will be good. Real quick, we're going to move on to the... that was a close one. We're going to move on to talking about NXT. So, not a ton happened on NXT. We saw Shinsuke Nakamura be announced the number one contender after beating, I believe he fought Blake from Blake and Murphy. And we also saw the debut of Kota Ibushi on NXT. For you guys who don't know him, he is in the Cruiserweight Classic, which we will be talking about in a moment. And he had his first match on NXT, which was really cool. He fought Buddy Murphy and just decimated him with a kick to the head and the last ride sit-down powerbomb. They also announced Bobby Roode will be debuting on NXT next week, which is definitely a big star, and I'm glad that he is debuting because they definitely need a few more stars in NXT now that Some people are being drafted. And in the end of the night, we saw Samoa Joe kind of complain about Nakamura being given a title match, and him and Nakamura kind of stared each other down from the ring to the entranceway, but nothing really came of it, and that's kind of all there was to talk about from NXT. I know I said this last week, and I'll probably say it again every week I do this. If you guys haven't been watching the Cruiserweight Classic, I highly, highly suggest that you do so, because some of these matches are the best matches I've seen in the WWE in a long time, and they're relatively quick, if we're being honest. I mean, if you're worried about being bored by like long matches with wrestlers you don't know, like, that is not a concern here. Most of these guys have personalities that even if you've never heard of them, they definitely do enough to get you involved and entertained in the match. But, you know, you also have guys in there like Brian Kendrick, who we all have seen, Tajiri, who we've all seen, Kota Ibushi, Zack Sabre Jr., who are real big stars internationally. So, you know, those are helping, but this whole tournament is tremendous, and I really hope that we get a good number of them drafted to NXT, and then eventually to the main roster as well. So we had 4 matchups tonight. We're 1 week away from finishing the first round. The first match featured Zack Sabre Jr. Taking on Tyson Dukes. And Dukes hit a tremendous Fisherman's Driver, which looked like it really hurt. Sabre, of course, known for reversals and submissions. That was the majority of his, moveset in the match. And in the end, Sabre won with an omoplata wrist lock combo, which was just ridiculous. So I'm just going to hit rematch there, and we'll continue talking real quick. Next matchup, we saw Drew Gulak, who is a tremendous mat technician. He is known for being a submission specialist as well. He took on the Indian wrestler Harv Sira, who was one half of the tag team, the Bollywood Boys, I believe. And I have to say, it was a decent match. Harv Sira definitely tried to reverse a couple times, but in the end, Gulak is just too good of a wrestler. He locked in the Dragon Sleeper from behind, and that was it. There was no way Harv Sira was going to get out of that. So Drew Gulak moves on, and he will actually face Zack Sabre Jr., who won in the previous matchup, later in the tournament, which I cannot wait for. That will definitely be one of the best matches in the tournament by far. Next up, we had Anthony Bennett versus Tony Nese. Not too impressed with Anthony Bennett, I have to be honest. I don't know if he just had an off night. It looked like he may have injured himself at the end of the match. I'm not sure if that was his fault or Nese's fault or just a combination. I don't know. But he didn't really impress too much. Tony Nese is a 190-pound guy who is jacked. Think Chris Masters back in the day, jacked. And this guy's doing moonsaults. He did a cartwheel off the apron to the outside. And he ended up winning the match in the end with a 450 splash from the top rope. So imagine someone like Chris Masters doing those moves. Again, I highly recommend you watch these matches. These guys are crazy. And of course, the last match was Raul Mendoza versus none other than Brian Kendrick. Mendoza definitely put on a strong showing. It looks like he maybe he broke a tooth or busted a lip or something. And he was bleeding pretty heavily from the mouth in the match, but he continued on. He ended up hitting Coast to Coast, which was made popular by Shane McMahon back in the day, where you jump from the top rope to the other corner of the ring. Not diagonally across, of course, but from one side to the other. Hit the Brian Kendrick and almost picked up the win, but not quite. Brian ended up kind of playing possum to get Raul Mendoza to give him like that half-second hesitation, and then Bryan would put him into a bully chokehold on the ground, and Mendoza would be forced to tap out. So Brian Kendrick moves on. I'm happy he moved on. Daniel Bryan said, he's hoping the Brian Kendrick wins this tournament because he's a big fan and they've wrestled before. But we'll have to wait and see. I think that's about it for the main event shows. Some other side news before we go. We have confirmation that Shelton Benjamin will be returning to SmackDown in the near future, along with Kurt Hawkins, who many of you might remember as being the tag team partner of Zack Ryder when they debuted as the Edgeheads with Edge. We also saw Rhino return on SmackDown, as we had mentioned, and Jinder Mahal will be returning, and he will be going to Raw. So, that's some pretty cool news. There's also rumors that they're going to be bringing Melina back. Rumors Tommy Dreamer is going to come in and do some stuff. There's rumors of MVP and Carlito, and there's just a bunch of other people that have apparently been reached out to, and we haven't quite heard back from them yet, or at least we as the fans haven't heard any news just yet. So, stay tuned, guys. I mean, we're definitely going to be getting some good returns. They're going to be bulking up the rosters in the next couple months, because after SummerSlam, we're going to start having pay-per-view. We're going to start having brand-specific pay-per-views. So SmackDown is going to have a pay-per-view all to themselves. They're going to have a roster that can fill up a pay-per-view and put on a good show. And same with Raw. So I'm extremely excited. I think you guys should be too. Feel free to leave a comment down below if you have anything you'd like to say. Leave a like, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. I want to thank you guys all for watching, and I will see you real soon.